Okay, so here's the science. If you're having difficulty focusing, whether it be meditation, affirmations, projecting your future self, or just considering a new idea, which is the whole idea of hypnosis, is allowing new ideas in and old ideas, hypnotized ideas out. It's important to understand the science only to get a framework of why it's difficult. It'll help, I think, to bypass that resistance. So here's the brain, and there's basically 3 points of the brain that we want to pay attention to. We're not really, the location really doesn't matter, but in a nutshell, this is the frontal lobes, it's the executive functioning here, right? And the salient network down here, the part of the brain that tells you what's important. It's what neuroscientists call the oh shit network. Like, oh, should I pay attention to that? I leave the stove on. What's that noise outside? So that part of the brain is very important. And then there's another part of the brain. Basically, they call this the salient network, the autobiographical self-referencing network, part of the default network, and executive functioning. So really, what we're supposed to do is people that are hypnotizable when you're in hypnosis, this part of the brain syncs together and people are naturally hypnotizable. Why? Because when they focus on something, it's also important. So what they're focusing on is also important. When they're reading a book, they're listening to someone, they're absorbed in what that person's saying. And so when that happens, this is not that interesting because I'm not interested in me. I'm interested in this experience I'm having. And so people who have a difficult time is because this is telling you to pay attention to something else while you're trying to pay attention to this. Sounds a little bit like ADHD, doesn't it? Right? And so if this part of the brain is yapping away and this part of the brain is pay attention to this or that, this part of the brain gets very, very frustrated and it starts to get stressed. And the more stressed this part of the brain gets, the less activity it has, ability it has. And so by recognizing that, there's a good reason why I forgot where I read this. There was a study that showed oftentimes ADHD is misdiagnosed, it's PTSD. And that made sense because if you have a lot of trauma in your nervous system and your nervous system is really afraid, why would you be able to focus on something? Why would you have what's called selective focusing, the will to choose to focus and absorb? If this salient network is still worried about that trauma happening again because you never resolved it. And so it's like someone telling you to pay attention to basket weaving when there's a tiger over there, snakes over there, someone trying to kill you with a spear over there. This part of the brain is going, we need to pay. It's not always the case. I'm saying this is one example of why someone might have difficulty focusing on what they choose because this part of the brain is saying there's something more important. And if that more important is related to that autobiographical self of maybe who I'm trying to live up to as me and I'm going against my values, it's very hard to consider something new. And this is why we do self-regulation, relaxation, and hypnosis, because when you're relaxed, you feel the danger is gone. When the danger is gone, you're more likely to consider something new. But the more intense this is, the more you got to get through it. So when you're meditating, just know that your brain is trying to get you to become more aware of itself as an identity and recognize that, disengage and say, I'm right now having an absorbed experience. I'm not interested in myself. I'm interested in having a sensorial experience, imagined or real in this moment or imagined. And I'm going to allow it to pull me. I'm going to allow it to become salient. So as I'm focusing, it starts to like what I'm focusing on because I'm endowing what I'm focusing with pleasant experiences. This is why heart math at coherence breathing is not just about breathing and self-regulating and building regulatory capacity. It's about feeling of appreciation. When you're feeling appreciation, you like what you're focusing on. And if you like what you're focusing on, it becomes salient in a positive way. And if it becomes salient and you're focusing, you become more absorbed, and this becomes a new known experience. A known experience in the subconscious mind is what creates itself over and over again. This is why someone could be given $20 million. And if their known experience with money is not having it or spending it or buying things, and it's not about saving and making money off the money they're saving and investing, the patterns have a tendency to recreate themselves. So next time you're meditating or doing self-hypnosis, become aware of those two patterns. There's something saying, hey, something is important outside. Listen to it, disengage from it. It's like, think about a fire alarm that just because it's going off doesn't mean there's a fire. If there's just smoke or toast, ignore it. It's loud, it's annoying, but the more you ignore it and devalue it, and the more you value something else, the more you're rewiring your brain to pay attention to you rather than you paying attention to it. And once it pays attention to you, you're the rider and the subconscious mind is the horse. Until then, the horse, it takes us everywhere. Okay. Hope that helps.